republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to the second of 4 scheduled budget meetings. We are really still in, of course, the waiting process on the state budget, and that, as I mentioned previously, will continue right up until the end, and hopefully it will get done at that point. I guess it remains to be seen because the governor is stated firmly that he will not sign any budget that does not make the tax levy cap permanent, and the Assembly introduced their one House bill today which rejects the permanent tax levy cap. So we'll see where that goes, and we'll see if they're able to deliver an on-time budget or not. Until then, we will continue along and then ultimately make some decisions at the last minute. With that, I turn it over to Mrs. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Geller. Good evening. So tonight, the featured presentation will be provided by Dr. Ann Rulin and members of our administrative team who will talk about curriculum, athletics, the fine arts, special education, and technology budgets. Much has gone into preparing those budgets, much consideration as to the current program and the future programs, and I think that we have put together a very comprehensive proposal for you to consider. First, however, I would like to provide a brief summary of the first draft of the 2019-20 budget. So as you know, we are faced with a tax levy limit, which is the lower of 2% or the consumer price index. The average annual change in CPI for 2018 was 2.44%, making the allowable growth factor 2% for 2019-20. After accounting for the allowances in establishing the tax levy, West Islip is faced with an allowable limit of 2.37%. Now, based on the calculated tax levy limit and the projected revenues, the expenditure budget should be, and you'll see a discrepancy with what the proposed budget is, but the expenditure budget should be $126,073,760, which is a 2.54% budget-to-budget increase from this year's budget to next year's budget. Therefore, based on the proposed budget as it stands right now, we have a budget gap of $580,003. Now that could increase or decrease based on a variety of factors. Whether we were to receive additional revenue, that would offset that. But of course, we all know that education is a fluid process and things happen in our community and within the school district over time. So there may be some factors that may decrease our revenues or increase our expenditures from now until the time we finalize the budget, as Mr. Geller points out. So this is a work in progress, and we continue to look at what we can do, but we do know that if we were to go out at the tax levy limit, we need to bring this budget down $580,000, which is the intent at this time. So the budget as proposed enables us to maintain our current curricular and extracurricular programs, but this is a work in progress, and we may lose some positions due to attrition and our declining enrollments. However, we do not expect to access any positions in this upcoming budget, in this proposed budget. I'm pleased to share that we didn't make any cuts to the programs in the current budget that under which we're operating right now, the 2018-19 budget, and we do not plan to do so for 2019-20. And if anything, we plan on enhancing our course offerings and other programs. We are as committed as ever to revising our instructional program as we need to ensure that we address the needs of our students, our individual students in this ever-changing world, and we continue to take a close look at security and student support in the areas of social and emotional development. This budget does include the addition of an executive director for human resources. Due to the ongoing challenges that all districts face, this position is increasingly important from both an instructional and non-instructional perspective in dealing with issues related to compensation, job performance, safety, wellness, benefits, professional and staff development, among many other areas. There are a variety of other additions to the budget, and you will hear more about them tonight from Dr. Rulin and in the upcoming work session on March 25th, at which we will discuss facilities and security. So before we move to our curriculum discussion, I would like to share that our current projected class sizes, I know many of you come here for that, but caution you that we are still in the process of enrolling our incoming kindergarten students. Additionally, there will be adjustments to the various class assignments, K-5, and these will be based on the annual review and CPSE, CSE processes. Some of our students may attend programs outside of their home schools within the district or outside of the district itself, and not all of those changes are available for reflection in these numbers right now. But if there is any variation to the projections, the staffing will be adjusted accordingly if need be.
So as of right now, the information we have, it's a decrease of 122 students for next year?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yep, K-12. So these are the projected class sizes for the 2019-20 school year. There's two slides. One reflects K2, one reflects 3 through 5. The numbers in parentheses in the top row where it says grade K, 1, 2, they are the district's contractual limits. We can go, if the need were to present itself, 10% beyond those numbers. But you will see here that we are able to maintain these levels while presenting a budget that supports well-rounded instruction, socio-emotional and extracurricular programs, as well as addressing some of our facility and security needs. So all of the numbers are well within the guidelines and good practice.
Is there a 3, 4, 5 too?
3, 4, 5 is coming. Go. So the numbers that are presented here result in the loss of 4 elementary sections, K-6. There are 3 elementary teachers retiring. I am recommending to the board that we absorb 2 of those positions and redirect the other 2 positions to other programs within the district that Dr. Rulin will speak about shortly. And as I mentioned tonight, we are focusing on the instructional program. So at this time, I will turn the work session over to Dr. Rulin, and she will share the specifics about curriculum, technology, athletics, special ed, fine arts, etc. I will share also that this is Dr. Rulin's last official budget presentation, as she will be retiring as of June 30th. So.
Thank you, and thank you, Mrs. Burns. So really very excited about our curriculum and instruction goals for our budget next school year. As you can see, there are a number of things that I will be sharing with you. I'm also pleased that many of them, although not all of them, are actually with a pretty flat budget, so that it's not at any additional cost to the district from the school year to the following school year. So our first thing is, as we spoke about last year at this time, is about informing a STEM academy. And we have been able to put together a program for our students. Okay. Usually I'm very loud, so my husband will be very surprised by that, Mrs. Burns. Anyway,
I didn't realize it was.
so really to delve, give students the opportunity who have this really strong interest into STEM areas. That would be science, technology, engineering, and math. And we are introducing our first academy in this upcoming school year. So our STEM academy will have 4 pathways. It will be pure science, pure math, pure engineering, and computer science. And we will, with that program, be able to really provide our students with a personalized education plan. And what really is the beauty of this STEM academy is that the reason why it can be something that we offer to our students and that it can be personalized is that these courses are also available to all our students. So it is not costing the district any money to put this plan into place. We can run that program if it's 1 student, if it's 50 students, and we've had quite a bit of interest, and we're looking forward to seeing how that will turn out for our students, but that will begin with the next school year. So the goals of the technology budget They're able to provide the district with all reliable, sustainable technology environment that will support our curricular and business procedural needs. And we are moving towards a clientless, cloud-based environment that will encompass the 21st century teaching and learning with the state-of-the-art wireless Cisco infrastructure. One of the key pieces to this budget is, as we look from budget to budget, there is actually a decrease of a little over $900,000, which represents 30% of that technology budget. So we continue to move on with our one-to-one initiative. We'll continue to grow that. At this point right now, we have our grades 4 through 12 all have one-to-one devices. 6 through 12 bring those Chromebooks home. We will be able to, by the end of the school year, all of 3rd grade will have that. Most likely, at the end of the school year, we will have that availability. But so next year, we are looking to make sure that our 2nd and 3rd graders will have one-to-one devices. And we have not really made that final decision on K-1 devices yet, but that will be available as well. So we're able to sustain and keeping up with the technology without increasing costs every school year. So one of the things we also brought back this year was the planetarium program for our elementary and our middle school students. And most of the work that is going to be done from part of the bond will give our planetarium much needed facelift. The bond work will give us a new dome, new cove and overhead lighting, new sound system, and new seats. But with that, we also have a laser projection system and a computer software suite, which will allow the digital learning lab, which will become, because it will encompass other content areas, an opportunity to bring classrooms in. So I know that this year we were able to bring in our mythology classes into the classroom there in the planetarium. We had field trips for all grades, K through 8, and then more intense for our grades 1, 5, 6, and 7. Because they have astronomy in their curriculum. In our music and art programs, we will continue for our middle school the upgrades in software for high school's math lab. We also will replace our outdated band and orchestra instruments district-wide and elementary pianos, additional storage cabinets for the middle schools and high schools, and equipment and supplies to support the high school chorus room and the music suite renovations. So we will also be conducting renovations. We expect that will take us not only through the summer, but probably into the next of the instructional school year, but we will have a new music suite as well with that. So all current programs are maintained in our current budget. AEDs are going to be placed on that replenishment cycle as we've had it. Uniforms are also on that replacement schedule. And for the 2019-2020 school year, we will replace uniforms for our varsity field hockey, varsity boys soccer, varsity girls soccer, varsity girls swimming warm-ups, varsity boys swimming warm-ups, and the JV football practice jerseys. So as we look at our special education enrollment and classification, we really need to know how many students we're actually serving throughout the district. We continue to review those programs at all times. We began our transitions that houses our integrated co-teaching. They used to all, in the elementary level, they used to be all at the north side. They will now have one in the south side and one in the north side. We have also looked to see about the transitioning needs of students that go from 9th grade into 10th grade. And as always, we strive to meet the needs of our students while encouraging and supporting increased independence. So this school year, again, really not any budgetary implications, but for the program-wise, we are going to be looking to enhancing our special education program within providing students with small group support instead of the large group support within the resource room, and the consultant teacher model, which might be direct or indirect. So if you look at this pyramid, you can see the special ed continuum. And if you looked at the bottom, that's where we obviously the most of our students are general education. Then we have general education with related services. That would be OT, PT, things of that nature, speech. Then we would have a consultant teacher that would consult with the student directly, or a student consult with the teacher directly. Then we would have, and as you go up this pyramid, it becomes more and more restrictive. Then we would have resource room. So the next one above that in the yellow is resource room and consultant teacher, direct or indirect. And what that is, allowing students to be in a resource room receiving special education services. And this will be something new for us, is that also offering them the small group support with the teacher, either consultant teacher direct with direct services to the student, or indirect, which would be services to help support the teacher. And then we have our integrated co-teaching model, and then special class, obviously, and then we have our home, hospital, or residential placements. So we inserted a new level in there that we're hoping to meet the best needs of our students. So that, of course, all decisions are made at the annual reviews, the CSE meetings, they're done in conjunction with the parents, and it's really based on the students' needs.
So resource room with the consultant teacher is the new insert that you've done.
Speak up a little, I can't hear.
So my question to Dr. Rulin is to point out that the resource room and consultant teacher, direct or indirect, is the new model that you're inserting into our offerings for special education.
Yes, yes. So what we've had before, we had something similar, but we were calling it the integrated co-teaching and then providing a support period, which is considered duplication of services. So in order to provide also the small support plus the consultant teacher model, we had to, resource room and consultant teacher are the only times you can pair up different types of services.
So, so that second period, that duplication of services is something that we should not be doing based upon state models or state rule regulations? What is that?
Right.
The issue?
You can't have someone in, you can't have them in two different.
So the integrated
placements,
co-teaching
defined.
as it
Hopefully
exists
I'm
right
saying that
now, along with the skills class that they receive,
That was another.
that's the duplication of services. So in order to avoid that, we are adding resource room with the consultant teacher model in
Yes.
place of that.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other added benefit to that is that resource room can be more than 5 students, and we've had large number in our support classes.
So our
12,
integrated
15.
co-teaching kids can't be pulled out for a separate resource room.
Right.
But they may get the benefit of integrated co-teaching still. But in order to make sure that we provide the least restrictive environment to those students that may benefit from the resource room and a semblance of the co-teaching model, we're going with this consultant teacher.
And this does not impact our special education budget at all? No, there's no staffing changes, no excess of teachers or anything like that?
We're
as a
planning on
result?
absorbing one special education teacher by retirement.
Okay.
But it does not affect the staffing because it's just a matter of whatever the annual reviews for the students are, the staff will be allocated accordingly.
Okay.
And it's tough to say what that looks like now, because we haven't even gone through half our annual reviews yet, so it'd be tough to say exactly what it is. Like,
Okay.
for example, it looks like we will not have, an integrated co-teaching at Beach because we don't have students for it.
Okay.
We don't have resource room in every grade, every grade level of the elementary schools because we don't have students.
Right.
So you have to have,
Right, so you move those resources around the district as you need them?
Correct.
Correct.
So the integrated at Beach is only 6th grade. We don't have students to run
Yes, I'm
integrated
sorry.
co-teaching in 6th grade. But next year, if we have year after kids coming up, then there'll be a class there.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question.
If you just hold till Dr. Rowland finishes, we'll get to questions. Thank you.
So maybe explain what
So
workshop is.
here we have,
Explain what a
also
workshop
sharing,
is.
because this is obviously part of our budget, is the cost, again, dictated by students' needs. So these are the out-of-district costs to educate our students in out-of-district placements. And you can see that's pretty consistent from year to year, but you never know. Again, it depends on our students' needs. Sometimes you might have more needs than the other, but that's what it's anticipated for next school year.
So we have a decrease here.
Yeah. Yes, right now we anticipate a decrease. So, of course, with our professional development plan, we will continue on. We have professional development in the way of superintendent's conference days. We have during school professional development. We have in-district, out-of-district, and of course, after-school professional development as well. So we will continue to work on instructional technology. We are enhancing our training for Naviance, especially for our counselors. We'll be doing some training about e-docs to help at the high school as well about that college application process. We will be using doing, of course, the G Suite for educators. We will be using the SAMR model. We will be using so many other different things like video, Nearpod. There's a long list. I know that our teachers are very excited about a lot of the things that are going on that they've been using. So we're always getting different requests and trying to keep a handle on that. But that's been very, very exciting for us to see in the way of technology. Standards-based grading pilots we will be conducting next school year. We will be looking at our common assessments that we already have. They're teacher created, but looking to see about creating blueprints for them. And what I mean by that is matching the skill and the concept to the question and the level of difficulty, so that we can, have our own kind of district norms in order to see where our students are and be able to really look and compare apples to apples and use them as benchmarks. We use some universal screening in K through 8 in the way of Ames Web and literacy for the K-5, SRI for 6 through 8, but we are looking to see what is something that we use daily, that our teachers are using, so that when we use that information, we could really look to see where our students are performing. We'll continue with our mindfulness. We have been using an outside company called Mission B this school year. We have trained all our third graders and our second graders. We have also trained our social workers, our psychologists, our counselors. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Oh, and administrators. We've had 2 parent academies, but those support staff, the reason why I mention them is that they had a little bit more intensive training so that they can turn keyed into the buildings. So we'll be doing that. Of course, keeping on next generation ELA and math standards, and really trying to support that inquiry model in science and social studies, and helping support our teachers and how do we have students go through that inquiry model so that they can really take advantage and take ownership of their own learning. So I spoke a little bit about this. So we do have our core program. It's from HealthSmart. We do a mental health component of it. We have implemented this school year. We have just put out the order for our middle school. They'll be using also HealthSmart for that piece. We will continue with our growth mindset that we have done with Began Work years ago. The coping strategies, if you heard me at the curriculum updates at the Board of Education meetings, it's just amazing seeing what our elementary students are able to do when they talk about, taking a moment, breathing in, breathing out, doing the circle breath, doing all these things in order to help them remain calm and not become anxious. It's just truly amazing. You could see it when you go into the classrooms, you see the inspirational quotes. And so we've been really excited about that. Looking about student leadership, obviously with more of the community service pieces, but also we have the Leader in Me in a couple of our buildings. And of course, every building does some type of different program with character education. Okay, so this is what Mrs. Burns was talking about that I was going to share with you. So in next year's school budget, what I am hoping that we will be able to offer our students is, our incoming students, our little ones, is a pre-kindergarten program. One of the things that we have been noticing for a variety of reasons is that we have been seeing more and more students not being able to have that opportunity for preschool, or the level of what they're learning, the inconsistencies from program to program, really made it a disadvantage, and our kindergarten teachers notice that. We have, I think it's now up to one building, we have as much as 43% of our students come in and they don't have any kind of preschool experience. So one of the things that we put together, working along with the elementary principals, looking to see what else was out there, really having that desire to own our own type of program so that we could help support our students coming in beforehand. And the idea here is to start off with one classroom in each elementary building. It would be one teacher, so I'm talking about 4 teachers with an aide. There would be a half-day program with no more than 20 students. That half-day program would then be able to service 40 students in each building. That'd be 160 students.
So an AM session and a PM session.
session
So
and
typical
PM.
pre-K instruction, 2.5-hour program.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And really try to set up the stage for students to get them, ready to learn, to come in and be ready to, explore, be inquisitive, being able to have those, knowing where they are in the world around
So
them.
Dr. Rulon, so we're talking about 160 pre-K students that you'll be able to offer through lottery. And how many incoming kindergartners are there this year?
As of today, 243.
So almost right there with fully funded for everybody, but starting off with a lottery where they're chosen randomly.
Right, I mean, we realize that that doesn't meet everybody's needs, and maybe down the line, there might be some other options we could think about.
Right.
I realize, and this is not one of the budget items or things to speak about that does not come with a cost. So I will be right up front there with you and tell you the cost of the salaries for 4 teachers, 4 aides, the equipment, the furniture, the supplies to start this up would be a little over $500,000. So, hopefully, perhaps with some, retirements and or positions that might be open, we might be able to do something.
Right.
I put forth this idea about, one in every building, but perhaps if we could, maybe just start on the north side and on the south side.
So I'm going to go right out, and it's not a surprise to any of you or my fellow board members that I am a huge supporter of putting pre-K into our school district. I think the time has come, and I really think that we need to take a hard look at why we need pre-K and the preparation that we need to offer our younger students along the lines of what we've been offering for the last 5 years, our older students. Not receiving a pre-K education before the kindergarten really puts students behind the 8 ball. If kids are not reading by 3rd grade on grade level, they will never catch up. Having a pre-K program that is run by the school district, using our own staff, our own teachers, our own curriculum, is going to help all of our students succeed all the way through high school. So I really, applaud you for trying to get this in. I know that you've gone to the state to try and get the UPK funding that every other school district around seems to have, but we are not eligible for that. We have tried,
you're not
correct? We've tried to go down that road and get that funding in place, but it does not preclude us from introducing our own kindergarten, pre-kindergarten program. So, thank you.
Okay, so I'll inject a little reality, because that's my job. I think we all agree that it's important. I think we all want it. I think we have to make very sure that we can afford it, and that we can afford it going forward.
I don't think we can afford not to do it, so
Okay,
that's really my point. We cannot afford not to do it.
But we have to balance a budget.
Yes, I understand that.
I
We
don't
balance a
think you do.
budget every single year, and we continue to bring new programs in, technology-related, IB-related, and we've always found a way to do it. Let's not forget about our youngest students.
Okay.
So I appreciate the comments, and then, and I appreciate your consideration. So here is our budget timeline. You can see the 2 shaded areas that are out. Those dates have already passed. Our next budget session will be on March 26th. And then we have our last one on April 19th, and then adoption on April 16th. I'm sorry?
April 9th.
I'm sorry, April 9th. And then our budget adoption on April 16th, and then the actual budget vote on May 28th. So I know there were some questions.
Yes.
Wait, I think we have,
Yeah.
Steve?
Hi,
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll get to you in 1 second.
I just had a question about the special education continuum.
Mhm.
Does the changes that are going to be implemented mean that overall there'll be less special education teachers in the classroom overall?
Less special education teachers in the classroom. It depends on what model they're in. The continuum, whatever the model is what the teachers would be. So typically, if there was a resource room, there would be 1 teacher with 5 students. Right? If you had a resource room and consultant teacher model, what you could have is students, a group of students could be there up to 5, it might not necessarily be 5. You could have a teacher, if it's a direct, would be working with a student in the classroom. Or indirect means they would be working with a student not with the student, with the teacher or with the model in order to help teachers. We've actually done that like unofficially at times where we've needed, support, especially I would say like in some of those other areas where we typically wouldn't be able to service integrated co-teaching, like world language. We usually don't have a special ed teacher in there. So we sometimes in the past, we have done some support that way when we've had that availability, but it was always based on the availability, but now it would be part of the model. And then an integrated co-teaching would actually have two teachers in the classroom. The special education teacher is offering a specialized program to the students within the general education curriculum. And then a special class would have one teacher and probably, depending on what it was. If it's a 12-1-1, then it would be, 12 students to one teacher to one aide. It could be a 15-1 we've had, that's 15 teachers to, 15 teachers, 15 students to one teacher.
So the models at each level are a little bit different. At the K-5 level, the teachers currently were in the integrated model, because the others are pretty clear, delineated. At the elementary level, the teachers stay together currently, but then if a student is in the integrated model as an assigned child, they are pulled out for the equivalent of 1 period a day to work with the special education teacher, and then either miss out on something going on within the general education classroom, or the general education students are at that point of time not learning anything new. So what's going to happen at the elementary level, the integrated teacher, co-teacher, will stay in the classroom full-time with the gen ed teacher instead of the pull-out. So it's more like a push-in model. At the middle school level, there was always, teachers work 5 periods. So the co-teacher, the integrated teacher, stayed with the gen ed teacher for 4 of those periods, and then their 5th period assignment was the pull-out support skills, which could be up to a 12-1, whereas resource room is a 5-1. So now the teacher, again, just as the elementary model, will stay within the 5-period assignment for the full time, for the students assigned to a co-teaching model. The benefit there is that now those students will not be pulled out for an extra period. Oftentimes, they would miss their elective or their encore courses because there weren't enough periods in the day for them to take advantage of all of those encore courses at the middle school level. So now the services will be provided in the classroom full-time, which is how the program is meant to be done by Part 200. At the high school level, that's where we see a little bit of a tweak, because our integrated classes had been growing over time. But we also know that not all of the students that were assigned to the integrated model needed that level of support. So they have that bridge now between the resource room and the integrated model, which is one of the most restrictive models, and they have the bridge of the resource room plus the consultant teacher, if that is what the annual review decides is in the best interest of the child. So it's just a bridge between the two.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
It does.
Too much information?
Fine.
She's been waiting patiently.
So, is there any integrated co-teaching at the 10th grade level next year at all?
We haven't finished the annual review process. It depends on the children.
Okay, so like all the groups.
It's an individualized education program.
So like progressing satisfactorily, not, or progressing gradually, and all that could go to EC would dictate whether that child.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that children already in the model, somebody's going to qualify for an integrated co-teaching model, right?
They may.
Right.
They may.
So it's still to be determined if there'll be any integrated co-teaching? Is
It
that
depends
right?
on the results of the annual reviews. Yep. We're not even halfway through them yet.
Okay. So then my question is, has it been piloted anywhere, or is there any research or studies to show in other school districts how the children fared when they went at this age from an integrated co-teaching model to a resource room consultant teacher model? What does the research show? How the children fare? Has this been done in other districts?
Well, we were out
It's
of,
late in the game.
well, we were out of compliance, and we don't offer the integrated model for seniors.
No, but I'm asking, has this happened in the 9th, 10th grade level where this has been such a big change in other districts that we could look at?
Well,
studying?
I couldn't speak to other districts about whether or not they were in compliance or not, but I can tell you
I'm
how
not
to.
asking about compliance.
But
I'm
that's,
asking
that is, when you're saying about like late in the game, but I can speak to having worked in other districts, that this is more typically the model, because the hope is, you know, as students go on, you don't want them to become set in one placement. The idea is that it's evening the playing field and that they're building their skills and becoming more and more independent so that they can reach, I mean, the goal is that they move out of special education, and obviously that's not gonna happen for all kids.
There's like public
But
studies
this
and
is,
things to show how this model
well,
works.
yeah, I mean, this is the that's one of the,
That's usually how you make.
that's one of the models that is recommended by the state. So yes, and are you talking about surrounding school districts in the Suffolk County? Yes, absolutely.
But regardless, it's an individualized education program. So this gives us more flexibility. So as people go to their annual reviews, they will have this discussion at that table, because in fairness, some students are ready for that independence, but maybe it's not ready for just resource room and to fly in on their own during the school day. So maybe they need the either direct or indirect consultant to step in once in a while and provide that support. It's really an enhancement to the program.
But I just had one other question. You talked about the preschool, you said 40 per school times the 4 schools, so that's 160 students?
Yes.
And currently there's 68 kindergarten students? I don't understand that math.
No.
Like when I do the 17 times 4 on the projected average class size?
No,
what-
that's the current K through 5 class sizes. We're talking about pre-K.
Right, so when you look at grade K, this year, and we take 17 times 4 schools, that would be 68 students total, right?
No, that's average class size.
That was the average class size. So there might be 3 or 4 sections in each building. Yes, yes.
You had said some students didn't need level of support when you were answering that gentleman over there. Some students don't need the level of support that's afforded in the co-teaching model. And I'm wondering, do you have any data to support that? Because I can only speak for my
But that's the exact point. You can only speak for your child, and we are trying to address the 797 children that are in our special education program. And there are some that maybe need a little bit more than resource room, but not quite as much as integrated. And that's why we go back to the annual reviews and the individualized programs that will be
So
crafted.
what will be the determining factor
The
on whether
data that
a
is,
child gets
Yeah.
into that?
so the data that's brought to the table,
Uh-huh.
observations by the staff, by the parent, the discussions that go on at a typical annual review. You know, not much different than maybe a second grader who's been receiving speech support, but now needs maybe a little bit of an enhancement to their support services and moves to the resource room or something like that. Or a child that's in resource room that perhaps needs to go to an integrated setting when they get to 7th grade or something like that.
I understand the continuum.
Yep.
What I'm trying to say is sort of piggybacking, I believe that's, well, only the email there. Might be just- Why is it working so well at the lower levels, and now we're talking about 9th and 10th grade, where you're saying the students are falling short, or that the program is maybe taking away from the other side of the students?
I don't think those comments were made at all, though. I mean, we didn't say that it was taken away from general education students.
It was
My
a drain.
presentation,
That's what I was told, that it was a drain on the general ed side.
That did not come from anybody here.
It did come from someone in the district.
Didn't come from anyone on this school board or administration.
Well, I walked in late, so I'm not even sure, except for Dr. Hoolan, I'm not really sure who I'm addressing.
no, I mean, so just to kind of recap, you know, we realized, first of all, we were out of compliance and we needed to address it. We knew that some students still need a support period. So, but we did not want to just go, and we don't have to offer that. I mean, there are some states regulated programs that all districts have to offer.
Are you talking about AIS?
No.
Services?
No, I'm talking about special education services. So some of them that you have to offer. For example, we don't have to offer integrated co-teaching. That's not something you have to offer. We use that, and that enhances our program. We offer it. We also are then, so we were thinking about for some of our students, for looking at some of about where they can so they can succeed. The support period for our most struggling students, our neediest students, having a group about 12 or 15, sometimes in the cases just because of their schedules up to 15, was not working for those students. Not everybody. There were some successful students, don't get me wrong. We have a lot of successful students. But why not provide our students with another choice, another piece for our parents to have, our students to work with, so that we have that small group instruction while still having the support by a consultant teacher that would come into the classroom or consult with the teacher. So it's just another layer into that whole continuum. Before this year, that yellow bar there was not offered in West Islip. Now it is. So it's really an enhancement.
You're saying choice. You used the word choice. Now they have the choice.
Well, all our CSEs, and especially at the high school, I mean, every student is encouraged to come. We ask our students to advocate for themselves. All decisions for annual reviews are made with the parent. So here it is. You say you do have a choice. When I'm talking about is that there's some things that you would say is, no, this child does not qualify for special class or residential area. Some things are obvious things. But maybe some of the things aren't. So when you go up that continuum, when you go in between, it's about weighing those options and about really seeing what works best for the students. Again, as Mrs. Burns said, it's an individual plan, it's personalized, it's for the student. So it's going to be based on their strengths, their weaknesses, where they are, using the data about how successful they've been, how they've met their goals, how they maybe didn't meet their IEP goals, things that teachers noticed about their learning behaviors, how they help support that. So we encourage all our students to be advocating for themselves at those CSE meetings, at the annual reviews, along with their parents.
Can I just ask one final follow-up? The state estimate is approximately 15% of all students being special ed students of the entire continuum. I'm not talking about just strictly for teachers. So what percentage would you, I realize maybe you don't have it off the top of your head, what would you anticipate would be the percentage of children that would still either, I don't know if we're the correct word, qualify or...
I think we've been pretty consistent, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, about 12.8%? Mrs. Stelling? Yeah, we've been pretty consistent year after year.
I'm just saying over Long Island it's 15%, so I just use that number.
Yeah, we're about 12.8%.
So about how many, what percentage would you think would still be able to retain that one program, that one service?
There's no way
It's hard
to,
for me to tell you since we haven't finished the process
And
yet.
what would you know?
When will we know?
when the process, probably in June, maybe? When the annual review process is over.
So I just want to see that I understand this. So you're still offering the integrated co-teaching for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, but you're also offering the resource room and the consultant. You're still offering both of those programs. But at the IEP meeting, you will decide which child is going into which program.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
But as we pointed out, just as we're not running the 6th grade integrated at Beach Street, it all depends on,
The number of
if there's a need. But the programs are all accessible, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you had a question? Oh,
She got it
okay.
first.
I'm just curious, you guys keep saying that you're out of compliance. What exactly does that mean, and how long have you been out of compliance?
Okay, so when the integrated co-teaching model first came out years ago, the research or the model proposed, nationally was to have the integrated co-teaching, and they called it a pullback period, support period. What happened, I think, is over time, and I don't know exactly what year it happened, but we did become aware of it, I became aware of it last year, is that small group pullback was considered an unofficial resource room, which was out of compliance if it was a resource room, because now you have two placements, an integrated co-teaching and a resource room, and you can't give duplication of services, and your resource room was out of compliance because you had more than 5 students. So we were looking to see about how we can best not pull away a support period just cleanly, but also come up with some ways to help support our students, and going through the commissioner regulations and looking through Part 200, doing some research, looking out at other districts, seeing what's going out there. This seemed like a good way to help with that support period, as well as providing some services in the classroom.
And are you penalized in any way for being out of compliance?
Only if they come. Only if somebody comes and catches us.
And
So-
the bottom line is, what was done, no student was harmed by that. And decisions were made, as they will continue to be, in the best interest of each individual student. So we are,
So if you're
giving
a
another
student
option.
that's in integrated co-teaching right now, who really benefits from a small group pullout, you're saying you're not offering that?
No, we're offering the resource room with the consultant teacher, which is a very
But
similar
that's
model.
different than having 2 teachers in the classroom
Yes.
all day to have support.
Yes.
So it's not the same.
No, it's not the same way we were implementing it.
So despite the fact that
In the
students might need
elementary
that-
level, it really won't, in elementary level, there were, the pullback period, a lot of times that support was just pulled back in the classroom anyway. So that really will not have an effect on, and
Wait,
that
say
program.
that again?
A special education teacher will pull a small group back.
Right.
It's just part of the elementary program though, like the general education teacher would have small group instruction, and they will continue to do that special education. They'll have a small group instruction within the day.
I
So
thought
they'll,
you said that would not be part of it.
pulling them out to a separate
So
location.
we're just talking about logistics, basically. So the difference is you can pull them out.
But those logistics don't work at the high school, if that's what
No,
you're
I'm talking
asking.
about elementary.
Elementary, it's just logistics.
So basically,
So what happened in the past at elementary is the teacher may have been with the kids for most of the day,
Right.
except for maybe a 45-minute period.
Right.
Now they're simply staying in the room for the 45-minute period.
okay.
So the 2 teachers will still be
So
there
there's
together.
no small individualized,
Well, there may be, but it may be in the back of the room. Or it may be in
Doesn't
smaller
that sound
groups,
a little
but it may
ridiculous
be,
for
but it may be a smaller group than a group
No,
of 12.
no, because
if you're
that,
an integrated student, I mean, it's kind of like semantics. We can't move them to
But
a
the
separate
theory,
location.
the theory of integration, but no, within any elementary classroom, there's small group instruction going on all day long. But in this particular case, you have 2 teachers within the classroom,
Right.
since there are 2 teachers in a typical size classroom, with the ability to even more greatly individualize instruction than maybe in one 40-minute period. Now those 2 teachers are there together all day long, providing that support to all of those students. And we also know our gen ed students benefit from that as well.
I mean, the small group instruction, and that's part of the elementary program though. It goes from a gradual release of responsibility. There's teacher to student, so it's direct teaching. Then there's, maybe some shared work along with that. And then as independent work is going on, the teachers usually pull back and they do strategy groups, guided reading. And I will tell you, just having been in the integrated co-teaching classes at the elementary, to see the 2 teachers work there. They're taking the group of students, they're working on the skills, things have been accommodated so the students are doing well. The other kids are working independently and then sometimes they switch along.
And I agree with that, but I feel like sometimes, especially with the integrated kids, there are definitely social implications to leaving them in the classroom and pulling them into the back of the room. These kids know that they have maybe some weaknesses that become more apparent to the rest of the kids in the class.
All children get pulled into small groups, whether they're gen ed, special ed, you do small group instruction in the classroom.
Yeah, but I think they benefit kind of having some privacy associated with that pullout. They can kind of be more themselves.
See, I have to just, having been an elementary teacher, I mean, like at the younger grades, when I taught first grade, kids could be pulled out and they loved it. I mean, they wanted to, they could go off with anyone. They were being pulled out of class. It was exciting. But when I taught 5th grade, that being having the pull out to go to resource room for all those, that was a little bit of a stigma. So I think it's about how the adults present it, and if you have, you know, the teacher is doing small group instruction, and they are, I mean, they're all doing it, then this is just another piece of that as well. And I will say too, the special education teacher doesn't always just take the special ed students. I mean, the teachers, I mean, it's like a marriage. They work beautifully together in that program, and, you know, this time we're working on this skill, and this is working on that skill, and sometimes it's not always, you know, the neediest kids aren't always students who have an IEP. Sometimes other kids are just struggling with something, and they need to be pulled along with that group as well. So, I mean, it's done. I think, you know, the teachers do a beautiful job with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to comment, because you know, I've had the opportunity to visit special education classrooms all through the district, integrated co-teaching, special class, life skills class. They're just amazing departments, special education, and they really put every effort into their work. I don't really feel that elementary school kind of semantic change really changes that program at all.
Well, at one point we did, because why we had it.
Right. Mrs. Dowling, have you, you know, with your staff and with the special education teachers, you know, discussing the changes, these little tweaks that you're making to the program, can you give us any feedback on what the special education staff is feeling about any of it?
Sure, I can tell you that the elementary special education staff that's here, as we were talking about pulling students in the back of the room, are nodding their heads. I can see them nodding their heads feverishly. It is the discussion came from special education and the gen ed teachers that are working in integrated co-teaching classrooms.
So that was their suggestion, so
in the middle of the day to go to a separate room, that they would think that they just felt that the students were missing out. They have no issue working in small groups within the regular education classroom.
And so would you say in an integrated co-teaching classroom that you would have a variety of different groups moving about the classroom at a variety of different times, working at small tables? They could be mixed, special ed needs and general ed needs, and yeah.
And just one added
you.
bonus too, I think too, is the indirect consult model really can help support sometimes just helping our general education teachers deliver that content in a way that helps support the teachers. So that would be another layer of support for our teachers, which we have been looking for as well. Any other questions? Yes.
Could you just explain more about the resource room and the consultant teacher? Like, what does that day look like for the kids? And the consultant, how long is that teacher in the room? Is she there the whole time? Is she coming and going? If you could just explain a little bit more about that.
Well, again, it would be an individualized plan. So, you know, resource room can be every other day, and it can be every day, depending on the needs of the student. A consult could be, you know, in certain classrooms, like, certain content areas, maybe not all of them. It could be in all of them. It could be, you know, once a week. It could be 3 times a week. It all really kind of depends on the needs of the student. But, you know, that would be something that will work out. It will look different for every student. You're welcome.
And what are the credentials of these consultant teachers?
There are special education teachers.
Oh, so they're within the district?
Yes, they're our teachers.
I think the word consultant may have thrown some people off, because sometimes we do have consultants, whether they're behavioral consultants or whatever the case may be, but these are our special education teachers, just in a different role.
Any other questions? Yes.
I understand that resource room and consultant teacher, so say I have a child, hypothetical situation, I have a child, he is in the resource room program, he has a need for a consultant teacher in English. It's already been decided that it's going to be 2 times a week. That's part of what we've already decided. Is that consultant teacher coming into my son's classroom, or is that consultant teacher consulting with my son or with the teacher? Like, how is the consultant?
So, yeah, so the difference between a direct consult. Direct consult means directly with the student, and an indirect means they're getting the consultation via the teacher. So that indirect consultation goes to the teacher. A direct consultation would be directly with the student.
Okay, so my son has reading and writing problems, and he's getting resource room services, and he's getting a consultant twice a week, the direct consultant. So she's meeting with him in class?
Yes.
Is that what- So like in class, while the class is happening, in a middle school setting or in a high school setting, this teacher's gonna come into class and sit with my son? Or like, I'm just like how does that, you know, and how many children is she gonna be responsible for during that time period?
Well, a consultant teacher could have more than one,
Right.
but, you know, that would all depend on the schedule. It would depend on the class, the program. That would be like very magical if you could get a group of kids. But usually, you know, my experience in looking at that is it's about, in that case, it's not about the special ed program, it's about helping the child and the student meeting the demands of the curriculum. So when you have that consult, so they'd be coming in and whatever being done that day, they are there as in a supportive role, ensuring that the students, you know, if they need some extra help, they're getting this way or they're being guided in a certain way. It could be more than one student in the classroom, or it could be one student in the classroom.
If I could just ask a question too, along that same lines. If a child is receiving consulting services and it's deemed that they need either more or less, there can be a request to go back to committee to change how much they're getting if there's not enough support being given and that's not working for whatever reasons.
Yes, always, absolutely. That has never changed.
Okay,
So to your point,
Yeah.
that the reason that makes it less restrictive than integrated co-teaching is because for a child who maybe only needs support in English language arts, but's a whiz in math, they have that push-in teacher for the English language arts, and those teachers are virtually co-teaching. But they're there primarily for that child or other children in the room that may be receiving that consultant teacher.
Okay,
But
so-
it's not a full continuum of co-teaching services for all of the subject areas.
okay, so then my child who happens to be very good at math but has difficulty in reading and writing might need a consultant direct in English and social studies where there's more
Right.
reading and writing, but might only need resource support for math and science.
Correct.
And so there's a likelihood that there'll be a teacher in, so in like the high school and the middle school setting?
High school only. Middle school, we're sticking with we're not going to have that consultant model there.
Okay, so in the high school setting, it's in essence a teacher, there's in essence going to be two teachers in the room daily, but
Only depending on what's required by the child's IEP.
Okay, so there could be a teacher in the classroom daily for the areas where my child has the needs.
Depending on how the IEP is written, correct.
Okay.
Can I just ask, is a resource room teacher a special ed teacher?
Yes. So any of our teachers could teach anything on this curriculum, on this
So
continuum.
I mean, it seems redundant, the resource room teacher needs a consultant teacher that's a special ed teacher also?
No.
So the science teacher would get the consultant teacher,
Right. The gender,
Oh,
the
okay,
gender teacher
all
gets the
right.
consultant.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so basically, so basically it's just breaking up consultant it's breaking up integrated co-teaching so that's not one whole, like, a child is not getting all integrated co-teaching, but only for the things that they are having the most need for and in the amount that they need the support. Is basically what you're saying the consultant direct program is?
Yes, right.
Okay.
It's all going to be individualized. It's all based on the student's needs.
And there's going to be planning time that's going to be set aside for the teachers, the co-teaching, the indirect and the direct co-teaching, indirect and direct consultants to work with the mainstream
Well, in an
teachers?
ideal world, we would be able to plan that, but unfortunately, that is not the case with a high school of our size. But certainly, it would be the expectation that teachers are collaborating in order to provide the best instruction to kids. So it might not be a formal prep period, if that's a common planning period, if that's what you're asking.
Right.
But they're
So
definitely,
when would they be?
well, we do it now.
Well, that's their work, right? That's the work of the high school staff.
Right.
Our resource room teachers do a tremendous
Right,
job of
but-
that right now.
But when you're talking about dealing with the individual needs of a great variety of students.
But that's what they do right now. All of our resource room teachers carry a caseload of 25 students, and they need to know the individual needs, skills, goals, and lessons of all of those 25 students, and somehow miraculously, they get it done. And they don't have common planning with all of those
Their role at that point is not to be
teachers.
a consultant to their role there is to meet the academic needs of the children.
Those are the needs of all of the special educators.
Right, but that's not a consultant role, that's an academic role for their specific IEP needs. A resource room teacher does that, but that's
They magically get it done.
Well, they don't magically get it done. They get it
They
done
work
because
hard.
that's their
Yes.
job, that's their position. Speaking of a mother of a former resource room student at the high school, very successful program, that is what they do. They figure out, what the kids need, where they need that support, and that's what they focus on. That's what they do now. Do an awesome job.
I'm
They
in no way
usually do.
critiquing the
I
special
know,
ed department.
and I
In
know,
no way.
I know change is difficult, but to me, I think that the district has added a layer of services here for the students and are really trying to drill down on what that need is and give them just what they need in order to grow.
And I'm not
right?
necessarily
To-
debating
to-
that,
to
I just want to make
scaffold-
sure that they have the time to.
I can say you're just trying to wrap your head around.
I just want to make sure that they have the time to make those plans as well, because, if I'm dealing with the needs of, 8 different students in a classroom and I have no time to work with the collaborative teacher.
Most teachers bring work home. They collaborate,
Well,
they
I do
do
know that.
email, ladies' room.
I also don't want to put tremendous demand, I don't want to make the job of the teachers challenging.
Hi, I had my son's IEP meeting last week, and the guidance counselor wasn't able to attend, he's in 10th grade. I was told that he's going to be transitioning out of the integrated into the resource. Now, my big question is, how do I know they didn't discuss whether it was a direct or an indirect consultant? So now I have
So
no idea.
Right, so I recommend, Mrs. Dowling.
It wasn't explained to me.
Right, so how about you reach out to Mrs. Dowling's office tomorrow or to the high school?
Yeah, he's
Or
in
to
10th
Dr.
grade.
Bridgman, I see you
But
back there
now,
somewhere
should
too.
the guidance counselor be in attendance at that meeting also? It was just
Well, it's not a requirement, but it's certainly something that we do try to ensure. But I would suggest you reach out maybe to the high school team first tomorrow or to Mrs. Dowling and get some clarification.
There was a death in the family, that's why the council wasn't present.
Oh, okay.
She was there, that's in the middle of that. But anyway, I just wanted to explain to me.
Sure.
So they're eliminating it in 11th grade as well. So it's just the integrated. Just really quick, I had a
We're not-
couple of teaching religion. So the
We're not-
integrated-
We're not eliminating anything.
Okay. But now my question also is, I was told that the way the program was set up, it didn't work for these kids. I guess it didn't really help. My son was in the integrated program last year, and I want to know where are the numbers, because he was able to pass the Regents for algebra and the Regents.
So I think you need to have this conversation directly with the high school team.
I did.
No, just to get some clarification, to make sure that you're comfortable with the setting for next year, and then we can go from there.
I think those are really important questions to ask.
Yes.
Why do you think my son is ready to come out of integrated co-teaching? Like, that should be a question you ask. Okay, you're saying he should do this consultant teacher model. Why? Why do you think that?
And they keep
that-
pushing me like, oh, no, he's ready.
Well, and why? So the question is why. I think the staff really are the ones that his current teachers, resource room teachers, the guidance counselor, why? Why is he so ready?
Okay, thank you.
If I was a mom, that's what I'd be asking.
Any other questions? Well, I just want to thank everyone for coming for this invigorating budget work session.
Before we break, though, I do
Before we
have a
break.
question. I do not question, but I just want to say
Before we
now.
break.
And I will say in the future, Dr. Rulin, thank you so much for all the work that you've done, not only this year, but in how many years you've been here?
6.
So I think you're my third assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction since I've been on the Board of Education. And we have, over those years, really started to right that ship. When you came on board, you really pointed it in the right direction. And
I really feel that, I'm very grateful for what you've done here in West Islip.
Thank you so
I
much.
wish you so.
And if you all attend the board meeting on Thursday, when we think about formally accepting her resignation and her retirement, and no guarantees on that one. We'll say all that again.
I'm okay with it,
I
no
may
vote.
say please,
Okay, as mentioned earlier, our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight. Right here, we'll be talking about security and facilities. I'd like to thank all of our instructional leaders for being here tonight, and everybody have a good evening.